The market smells. Where to begin? I guess at the beginning. If anyone I knew heard this story, they would not believe it of me. I am truly white bread and plain vanilla, and I have never done anything wrong in my life. I have been married 25 years to the same man and always physically faithful to him until the last 3 years. I guess this is where I should tell you about my marriage. I met my husband, and after knowing him 5 years we married. We started off as just friends and it evolved into a romantic relationship. Very early in the marriage, bonding became infrequent and he did not always have the ability to perform. He has always been a very ambitious, driven, and intense man who spent 85% of his time working, 10% of his time pursuing sports, and 5% of his time with me. Believe it or not, I actually charted it out after we got married. When I said something to him, he said I was never to interfere with his work. Long story short, over the years, I began to feel more and more abandoned. He is a good man, a good provider, and I love him and would never want to hurt him. About me, I am an only child, no siblings, no children, parents are both dead, and to make things worse, as I look back to my childhood, I'm sure I suffered from separation anxiety, and I think I still do. My mother was the most wonderful mom ever and I loved her dearly. My dad was controlling and verbally abusive to both my mom and me. When I lost my mother, I felt like I was no longer anchored to the world, and when I lost my dad, I felt nothing but relief. I remained closely involved with him and he was very abusive to the end. 7 years ago, I was bored and started playing an online game. It was social and I was able to be creative as well, making virtual things. I'm the artsy type. While playing, I met a man from London online and we began spending a lot of time together. It seemed harmless, he was an avatar, it wasn't real, and it soothed the loneliness. He wanted to take it to real life and I didn't. He eventually convinced me and we exchanged phone numbers, pictures, and opened Skype accounts. He lost his job and after that we would spend 5 or 6 hours a day together on Skype. When we went about our days, we would take each other with us via the phone. In the evenings we were together virtually. We became each other's lives. We were also able to make enough money together through a virtual business for him to be able to live without a job. 3 years ago, he left London to come to the States to be with me. We have spent almost every day together since. He lives in a house that I inherited from my mom. He is illegal and I can't marry him for the obvious reasons. I'm also 15 years older than he is, which he has always known. I have been told a million times that I look 20 years younger, so no funny looks from people, and he finds me attractive. Everything has finally come to a head as I knew it would someday because of his immigration status, because he has no life without me. He can't even work, drive, or get a bank account. 3 months ago, he went to an online dating site and met a girl. She figured the situation out after visiting him at home a few times, and he lied to her and told her we were just friends. It also came out about his status, so she offered to marry him. They got married a few days ago, but he refuses to move out of my house and move in with her. I know it's a green card marriage because he told me if he got married it would be for a green card, but she thinks it's the real deal after just 3 months of knowing him. He said he needed a life and I agree with him. She texted me and asked me about our relationship and I told her the truth. Now that he won't move in with her, she has gotten all wiggy and keeps saying he loves me more than her and she will have to always live with that. I have tried throwing him out and he refuses to leave and even said he would tell my husband if I made him leave. She is hysterical and freaking out and is threatening to tell my husband. I told him just please go live with her and all of this will go away. They got married at a justice of the peace in a county with no waiting time, and the next day they were at the immigration lawyer and she has already added him to her insurance. He will not cop out to this being a green card marriage to me, but he won't leave. I honestly think he is afraid to admit it because he is afraid. I will tell her. He keeps telling me that I am his best friend and he always wants to be able to see me. I told him that was fine, but he has to leave. He tells her he will move in with her in 2 months when she can get a bigger place. He is using his dog as an excuse not to move in with her. I have told him that I understand his decision to move on because he needs a life, but he won't leave. I know this is getting long, but it's a long story. I guess I'm not really asking what to do about him or her or them telling my husband. I'm asking what to do about me and venting as well. I take personal responsibility for my actions and I get what I get. I knew the risks. In fact, I have made very little effort to hide it, and yet hubby has never noticed, questioned me, or said anything. I'm not sure if he is that self-involved, doesn't care, or doesn't want to know. Either way, I do love him and don't want to hurt him. I'm here because absolutely no one else in my life knows about this or ever has. Not my friends, not anyone. I just need a sounding board. Sometimes life is stranger than truth. Every word is true and I was looking for some help, but as I can see, you are typical men with absolutely no empathy. But I guess that is not your fault because your brains only have 20% of the emotional receptors that women have. So, you get pass, and thanks for your insight. I thought this was supposed to be a safe place to come for advice, and believe me, if you have read what I just posted, I need some. And yes, as I said, my husband either doesn't care, doesn't notice, or doesn't want to know. So how about some input? You are men, what do you think? I'm going to come clean and I will probably get kicked off of here for it. This forum was a little slow for me, not a lot of answers very quickly, and I wanted a lot of opinions. The part about being confused and panicked is true. Who I am is not. Everything I have said I have either personally witnessed or I have had personal knowledge of, so the story is true. The details are accurate. I am the other woman. The reason I did not post as her is because I wanted opinions that were not geared towards me and my position, because I didn't want it slanted in my direction. I wanted to state the facts and I wanted a lot of help as quickly as I could get it. People who have affairs are pariahs in this society, regardless of the circumstances. I didn't want what you said to be influenced by that. I wanted to get just an overall outlook on the whole thing. I didn't want to be central, I wanted to take myself out of it. I hope you can understand that. My story is a long one and I take full responsibility for my actions. I get what I get for doing what I did. I have actually posted to a third board, but this time as myself. Thank you all for giving me the information I was seeking, and I'm sorry to have deceived you, but I needed opinions that were not biased towards me. I have done my best to accurately describe the situation from her standpoint. I have had several very long conversations with her about it. I thought she had the right to know, and while I understand his want for a green card, he has absolutely no life without it. He is a dog for deceiving her the way he did, and she is an idiot for falling for it. Does he love me? Yes, I think he does as much as he is capable of. Do I still love him? Yes, you don't fall out of love after 7 years overnight. Do I think he is lacking in character? Yes, I do. As far as what will happen, I really don't know. I have asked him to leave and he absolutely refuses. Yesterday I told him I would take care of the dog. I'm going to put the house up for rent, so I have a lot of work to do and I will be with the dog a lot. I love the dog very much. He was a birthday gift from me to him. He says he will be out in 60 days, that they will rent a place together. He also told me that when he leaves it will be the saddest day of his life. He has been here 3 years, and when he came over, we were hoping for amnesty and that he would be covered, but of course that didn't happen. He told me a few months ago that he would probably have to get married, but it was the last thing he wanted to do. I let him come over here because he told me he had no interest in ever getting married. His life over there did not seem that good, so I thought he wants to come and apparently isn't really leaving anything behind. I also told him anytime he wanted to go back I would get him back home. Right or wrong, we have been together because we truly have loved each other. 7 years is a long time for an affair. I think the average affair lasts maybe only 6 months. Our story, the part you don't know about, is actually a very unusual one. This is the first and only affair I have ever had, and like everyone else who has ever had an affair, I had my reasons, which are long and complicated. I have no family, none, no siblings, no children, no parents, and a few friends. That's it. I run the risk of having absolutely no one. I got into this mess because I was so lonely, and I know that is no excuse, but I know that is why I did. That is also why I didn't leave a marriage that was not fulfilling my needs a long time ago, even though I probably should have. This man was not just an affair, he was my family too. The other day my husband told me something that he has never said or admitted. He said he wished he would have spent more time working on his personal life and his home. And do you know what it took to make him come to grips with that? It took his mother dying and his father getting old. My husband is a good person and I do love him. I have screamed and shouted from the rooftops for years what I have needed from him, and it fell on deaf ears. Probably the best thing I can do is what I'm planning on doing, and that is not having anything else to do with the other man. And since my husband seems to be realizing his lack of participation not only in our marriage but within his own family in general, maybe he will be more open to working on our long-standing issues instead of just getting mad, refusing to talk, and blowing me off. I think it's my only chance. Can anyone tell me at this point what purpose it would serve to confess to something he knows nothing about, or if he does, he cares not to know about? I know it's the moral thing in most people's eyes, but is it the practical thing to do? Will it enhance anyone's life? I'm not just talking about my life but his too. The last thing in the world I want to do is hurt him. I'm looking to get to the other side of the tunnel, not open a can of worms. I would like to do it with the least amount of damage to everyone. Lies do cause great damage, to be sure, and probably the most damage has been done to me by me. The past is the past and I don't plan on making it my future. I'm not blaming him for my actions, but he had a hand in this as well. He left me alone. He didn't want children. He only wanted me to work for him, even though I had my own career before we got married. He wanted to consume my life and yet not be present in it. I should have divorced him 15 years ago, but I didn't. I have let the fear of being alone rule my life, and honestly, I don't know if I can overcome that. I have a background in real estate and access to an attorney friend. Eviction in my state takes quite a long time. Probably the simplest way to get him out is to just turn off the utilities. They are in my name, so that is not a problem. It is extremely hot here right now, like 100 with high humidity. He won't stay long under those conditions. If you have read the other forum, this has all happened very quickly, and it was just yesterday that he told me he would absolutely not go. I don't really have any proof other than conversations that it is a green card marriage, but I think the facts will probably speak for themselves at the interview. Short duration, knowing each other, how they met, the fact that he refuses to move in with her, all of that. She may totally have a meltdown before it even gets that far. She is really becoming hysterical. Do you know he has only met her children one time and for a very short time? It just doesn't make sense. I asked him, do you even know what her children's names are? He has told me many times that he did not want to be a father to another man's kids. Who knows, maybe the silver lining in all of this is forcing us to finally resolve some old issues. He is pretty well adjusted, but I am coming to grips with the fact that I am not. All of these past 7 years while helping my loneliness has also brought my anxiety levels through the roof, and the latest chapter in the story really pointed that out to me. I really feel like I'm losing it and I need to get a grip. The green card wife was texting me hysterically today, going on about how he still loves me and are we going to be friends and are we going to still sleep together. I told her no, we are not, and we aren't even going to have a relationship. Apparently, she has been so distraught that she has been at home sick and throwing up. He told her he would come over to be with her and the lame jerk didn't even bother to show up, and now he is not even answering her calls. I told her she should just show up and talk to him. You know what she said? She said, well, he invited me to come over later tonight so I will see him then. Invited her, really? They are married. I told her I would turn off the utilities and that would force him out because they are newlyweds and this should be a happy time for them and they should want to be together. She said, no, don't do that. I want him to be happy. I think she is just afraid she will lose him. It's not that I don't have remorse. I do. I'm just so damn scared. I have separation anxiety. I'm not using that as an excuse for what I did. I just think it's why I didn't divorce, which would have been the honorable and honest thing to do. I have no family, no children, nobody except him and my former lover. My lover was more than that, and it was not just about bonding. After 7 years, it's not just about that. He was my family too, just him and my husband. The thought of being completely alone in the world is almost more than I can take. I mean, really, I should have gotten a divorce instead of having an affair, but I just couldn't do it because of my fear of being completely alone in the world. I know that is an illness that you think of only children having, but I had it then and I still have it. Only then they did not recognize it or treat it. I don't want to do anything drastic until I talk to a therapist or something, because right now, I don't trust my own judgment. Everybody thinks it's about the bonding, but that was probably the least of it. It was more about the companionship and having someone to share things with and do things with. My husband and I have had slept together maybe 10 times in the last 15 years and not at all in the last 7. We have been like roommates for a long time. One thing I have never done in my life is sleep with 2 men at the same time. Maybe that is why I don't feel remorse to the degree everyone thinks I should, because I only slept with my lover and not my husband. Whatever, it's a mess, I'm a mess, and I was hoping this place could be a start of trying to figure it out, and it has helped. If I seem unclear, it is because I am in my own mind. As far as the selfish part, I don't think it is selfish to expect certain things from a husband or a wife, or anyone you have any kind of relationship with. Probably the only true altruistic relationship is between a mother and her child. We all gain things from what we do. We even get something from charitable acts. It makes us feel good about ourselves. Was what I did selfish? I have not thought about it. I don't know if it was selfish by your definition of selfish. That is kind of a subjective term. Yesterday I felt like I was hanging on a rock wall. I can't say it was because of fear of being discovered. It was because I am having a really hard time sorting it out, and because I lost my band-aid, the lover. I have read that when you are in love with someone and have spent a lot of time with them, when there is a disconnect, there is actually a physical addition as well. Not sleeping together, but pheromones and oxytocin and all of that. I think that is true, and I think that messes with your head too. I know there are people that are somewhat not needy, and I think that might be my husband. Or maybe he just channels everything into work and sports and there is no energy left. Bonding is more than just fun, it is communication, and that has been missing for 15 years or maybe even more. I know things tail off after a while, but they don't get non-existent. I feel pretty beat up by this forum right now, but I feel better too. I know very big, long-standing problems don't get fixed overnight, but you have to start somewhere. And yes, lies are toxic for everyone involved. Since being separated from my lover, I have stopped crying every day and I am feeling much calmer than I have in a while. I would think I would feel the opposite, but I don't. In 3 years, I see myself with my husband. I want to have peace in my life. I don't want to be looking over my shoulder. I want to have something productive going on, either helping him with his business or one of my own. I don't see myself dating or wanting to be single. We are planning on moving to the country and already have a piece of property and have started building. As security for both of us. I want him to be happy. I want me to be happy. I want what other people with good marriages have. My hubby's secretary, who I really adore, will be coming to our house to work 1 day a week. When I see her with her husband, I'm so envious because they have such a wonderful, loving marriage and they are companions to each other. She is an awesome person and so is he. They seem to put each other first in their lives. They are the most important thing to each other. I also have a best friend who has a really good marriage. It took her 4 times to get it right, but she finally got a good one. One positive thing that has happened recently is my husband is not so verbally abusive. I think it's due to me, as you call it, recently acquired, snarky attitude. It has backed him off, really pissed him off, but lately I have noticed that he is less abusive and more willing to listen to me rather than shout me down. He has always told me all the things he does not like about me in a less than tactful way. I finally started giving it back to him, and I guess I pushed his buttons. The upside is we are having conversations now and not one-sided shouting matches. So that is a really good thing. I have probably been overly sensitive to some of the things he has said and should have just blown it off. My mother was extremely ill for an extended period of time, and I brought her to my house and took care of her. My father was incapable of looking after her. He could barely look after himself because he was quite eccentric. She fell once and hit her head and had a huge green bump on her face, and he never even noticed. He was so angry, and I don't really know why, that he used to call me up and tell me he wished my car would crash into a million pieces and burn, that he wished I would have X in a plane crash, that he wished he would have let me X when I was a kid. Really awful things that really crossed the line. When he passed, I was not sad, but I was really mad. It was such a weird reaction to a passing, I thought. I talked to a counselor just briefly, someone I knew, and she told me the reason I was so mad is because I wanted to fight him and win, and now I never could. I think she was right. I despised him not because of how he treated me, but because of how he didn't take care of my mother when she was so sick. How could you do that to someone you are supposed to love and who was nothing but a wonderful, supportive person for all those years? Everyone has said I show no remorse, but this morning I woke up with plenty of it. When I look at him now, I feel so sad and guilty about what I have done. Before I justified what I did because I tried so hard to get him to see what was happening and how I was feeling, and he just didn't. I should have maybe tried separating or forcing the marriage counseling then, but I didn't. Instead, I found someone who made me feel good about myself and who also is a liar. In my mind, I had two problems to deal with: my OM and the green card marriage, and if he really still loved me. At that point, I still wanted to hang on to him. The second part was me. Why did I want to hang on to him? So, I decided I should just post as myself and maybe get some help figuring out me and why I would try and hang on to something like that. Hard as it has been, I did get that help. I need a lot more, probably beyond what I can get here, but everyone has to start somewhere. If I came off as not being remorseful or callous, it's because of the way some of the posters were coming at me was so aggressive and judgmental. That may relate to my own standards because I try not to be judgmental with people. I want to help them when they need it, but I don't feel like I know everything about their lives, certainly not enough to judge them as a whole person. People are complicated and not fully represented by just one part of their lives. Yes, I can maybe judge the situation but not the person. Husband, we met at work. He was my assigned mentor in our career. I left the company. We remained friends and he continued to pursue me. We were friends for maybe 4 years before it became romantic. We were engaged for 1 year, had a big family wedding, nice honeymoon, started our life together, and then I realized that he was never home. Always working, not saying he was working. I would meet him for dinner, so he was where he said he was. Then it was scuba diving, karate, mountain biking, golf, you name it. He was gone all the time. Bonding was good for the first year, then dwindled off. I was angry because he was never home and didn't want to do anything I wanted to do with him. Typical woman's reaction, I guess. He could be very critical of me, probably undermine my self-confidence a bit. I'm not really strong that way. I wanted kids at first, but he did not. So, I didn't want to force that on him. We never had any. The years passed, and here we are. Pretty typical, I think. I have been accused of being a drama queen. I'm pretty emotionally driven, which is probably not a good thing. I have a vivid imagination which gets me in a lot of trouble because it causes me to be anxious sometimes. Maybe I should try skydiving, except I'm actually a coward when it comes to that kind of stuff. Maybe I could write a book and create some fictional drama and occupy my imagination all at the same time. I do think I'm a bit eccentric. My best friend said my husband was verbally abusive. She totally dislikes him. I was talking to her on the phone the other day and we were talking about the past. We have been friends since we were 14, and I said I used to pray you would find someone. This was after her third divorce, and you did. You really have a great guy, and she said I prayed for the same for you, and I'm sorry you didn't get the guy who would love you and be the kind of person you need in your life. I was kind of shocked because she usually doesn't say things like that. I also have other friends who have said the same things. I used to work with him and I finally left because at company meetings he used to belittle me so much in front of our employees. His secretary told me one day, I just can't believe the way he talks to you in front of other people. His sister is exactly the same way, and his dad was also that way in his younger days. Maybe it's a learned behavior in his case. I have had lots and lots of conversations with him about his tone and what he says and the fact that he has done it in front of others. It's not only hurtful, but it makes others uncomfortable too. I know a couple of brothers. We are friends with the entire family, and they said to me one time, "We are so happy we got to have lunch with you and get to know you better." H wasn't there, because he never shuts up long enough for you to say anything. People really don't understand, but I met my OM on a game. A lot of people on that game have slept together, get married, buy houses, run businesses together, date and dance, and I would say most of them are married. There have been a lot of divorces as a result of that game. Yesterday I completely deleted my game and I'm never going back. It's fabulous for people who are housebound or handicapped because it lets them participate fully in life, but not for me anymore. As far as the OM, I texted him with the law with regards to unwanted house guests. As long as he doesn't pay rent, he is considered a house guest and not a tenant, which exempts me from having to go through all the eviction process. All I have to do is call the police and tell them he is trespassing, and they will come and escort him off the property. He is such a dog. The woman he married is hysterical because he won't move in with her and she thinks he still loves me. I would be willing to bet money I'm going to have to kick him out. I'm sure he thinks I won't do it. He is so sure I'm so hung up on him. I told him it's one thing what he has done to me, but to marry someone and then treat them like that. I told him he disgusts me and he is a stranger to me and I want nothing more to do with him. Fortunately, I can just block him on my phone, Android. I'm going to block his number and his wife's. I won't even know if they call. Until he is out, I'm following the old keep your friends close and your enemies closer. His wife is close to a meltdown, and to make matters worse, she is a recent cancer survivor and is actually getting sick from all of this. What would drive someone to marry someone after only 3 months, and those 3 were suspicious? You know what she tells me? I see the goodness in him and I know he will change. Followed by the question which she has asked about 100 times, do you think you will ever sleep with him again? I told her I'm not even going to be friends with him again. Are you kidding me? One comment I have is that my affair was for half the time emotional and half the time physical. Maybe I did not make this clear, but the emotional abandonment I felt was probably more painful than the lack of bonding. Healthy bonding is another form of communication, and when we stopped having it, it was just another way that we stopped communicating. For us girls, bonding is mostly between the ears, not the legs. Maybe because of my past or my own issues, I have a very high need to be emotionally close in my relationships. All my friends and my past romantic relationships, before I was married, have always been long and enduring compared to most. Even this affair. My comment. So just imagine your future, OP, you take your H to MC. While there, you tell him the truth, that you felt so abandoned, so unloved, so unlovable, that when another man came around and told you the love stuff you needed to hear, you just lapped it up. Now, you see it for what it was, falsehood. But that it also opened your eyes to what was wrong in your marriage. That you love him, but you need certain things in a marriage. You want them to come from him, but if he's incapable of giving them, you'll understand and move on. You'd rather it was with him, but you each have your own needs, and you need to discuss and MC those needs and how to obtain them. That's the best first step toward happiness for both of you. Please understand something. This can't happen unless you are honest with him. I don't want you to tell the truth to punish you. I want you to tell the truth so you can find happiness.